I know you are out there. You're listening. You're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I can't see the future. I'm not here to tell you how this is going to end. I'm here to tell you how this is going to begin. I'm going to start this broadcast, and when I do, I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. A world without controls and boundaries. A world where anything is possible.
I'm going to tell on you.
So it's not our brand, but it is the neat Colgate pump.
It's the Colgate pump with MFP Fluoride.
Who got the Colgate pump? Susie did.
Hey, me! 2 great tastes, maximum fluoride protection at your fingertips.
If you listen to the CDC and the FDA, they'll tell you that fluoride consumption is safe. And why would we question them? Well, let's think back. Weren't we once told that cigarettes were safe? Let's take a look into the history of fluoride.
The first widespread commercial use of fluoride was for the eradication of vermin. Since the 1800s, sodium fluoride has been a key ingredient in rat poison and insecticides. These products were commonly used in and around the home to kill lice, mice, rats, and insects. Fluoride proved to be not only a good way to kill rodents, but also an effective way to kill a man. As the use of fluoride became more popular, reports began flooding in of people dying from ingesting this toxic substance. Headlines screamed, "Roach poisoned in pancakes kills 11 men. Rancher takes dose of poison by mistake." Article after article, all having the same tragic endings, proving that sodium fluoride can and does indeed cause death. In fact, during the last part of the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution was taking hold of the modern world. An unfortunate byproduct of this technological revolution was that it created the most toxic pollutants known to man. And the most hazardous and destructive of them all was fluoride. In his award-winning book, The Fluoride Deception, investigative journalist Christopher Bryson examines fluoride's disturbing history. Bryson notes that in its early days, fluoride was a widely known and well-documented killer. Documentation from early lawsuits against fluoride manufacturers clearly shows that fluoride was a hazard, not only to humans, but to the environment as well, with damages reaching into the tens of millions of dollars. By 1930, the aluminum industry was the largest and most influential fluoride polluter. Industrial giants such as Alcoa knew they had to do something. Vegetation and livestock near Alcoa plants were being decimated as toxic fluoride fumes lingered, rendering nearby cattle lame and crippled, even causing death. One newspaper article from that time proclaimed, "During the past year, we had 51 head of cattle die. We had laboratory tests made, and these tests show excessive amounts of fluorine in the liver and kidneys. Also, some of our young cows had lost their teeth. Our saddle horses were so crippled from fluorine poisoning, they had to be shot." The serious nature of fluoride toxicity was beginning to be realized. As a result, fluoride's threat to corporate America was laid out in an exhaustive review conducted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Toxicologist Floyd Dietz warned of new medical information exposing fluoride's harmful effects. Danish scientist Kaj Roholm singled out the aluminum industry, specifically Alcoa, as the source of much of the fluoride poisoning. Fluoride was causing irreparable damage, and the word was getting out. Alcoa knew they had to act fast. Their high-powered attorneys sprung into action, quickly buying up farms and paying out settlements. Ironically enough, during that time, the U.S. Public Health Service was under the jurisdiction of the United States Treasury Secretary, Andrew W. Mellon. Mellon was the founder and major stockholder of Alcoa. He was also the founder of the Mellon Institute, an industry-funded research institute that was notorious for giving corporations such as Alcoa the scientific data they needed to defend themselves against lawsuits. The Mellon Institute published questionable and self-serving evidence that supported the effectiveness of fluoride in fighting tooth decay. In doing so, the Mellon Institute rats had put a smiling face on what had been a scientifically recognized environmental and workplace poison. It was an aluminum industry-funded scientist, Dr. Gerald Cox, who worked at the Mellon Institute, that first made the proposal to artificially fluoridate public water supplies. Mellon's economic interest in fluoridation was obvious. Fluoridation provided the chemical industry an opportunity to void liability of their poisonous fluoride waste by means of promoting it as a health benefit. The official human experiments began in Grand Rapids, Michigan on January 25, 1945. 107 barrels of sodium fluoride were delivered to Grand Rapids, where city technicians began tipping them into the city's water supply. They were the first to publicly fluoridate their water. It was to serve as the test city, and its tooth decay rates were to be compared with those of non-fluoridated Muskegon.
The study only lasted 5 years. There were no permanent teeth in the child born at the beginning of the study. It was an unblinded study. They did no measure of safety, and they claimed that there was a tremendous benefit to the permanent teeth. Well, there weren't any permanent teeth in the children that were born at the beginning of the study, and soon thereafter they fluoridated Muskegon, the control city. It's a phony baloney study used to demonstrate the benefits, where there are none.
Per usual, a government regulation that's sold to the public under the guise of safety is actually a major corporation buying off the government to make profit and to regulate society. This serves as a teachable moment. We always hear politicians calling for further regulations in the name of public safety. What they don't tell you is that corporations buy off the politicians. And they're buying off the politicians with purpose. So they buy off a politician, they create a fear campaign, and they use clever marketing, and they create fear within the public. Then the politician comes in, the politician that has already been purchased by the corporation, and the politician says, I need to put forth this regulation or that regulation to keep you safe because you're afraid. What they don't tell you is that you're afraid because of a corporate fear campaign, and that the regulation that's being put forth is designed to make said corporation millions and billions of dollars. They're not regulating the corporation. It's not the government regulating the corporations. It's the corporations buying the government and then using the government to regulate society to make money and create monopolies. A new lawsuit filed in California is attempting to get fluoride removed from our drinking water. United States District Court for the Northern District of California at San Francisco, the Fluoride Action Network versus the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. The lawsuit aims to get the EPA to prohibit the addition of fluoride and chemicals to drinking water. Approximately 200 million Americans live in communities with artificially fluoridated water. Even people that don't have that water consume fluoride through processed foods and beverages. Water fluoridation began in the 1940s based on the mistaken premise that fluoride's primary benefit to teeth comes from ingestion. The National Academy of Science has repeatedly stated that fluoride is not an essential nutrient. Fluoride does not need to be swallowed, therefore, to prevent any disease or promote any health benefit. Water fluoridation has been rejected or discontinued by the vast majority of European countries without any demonstrated adverse effect on cavity rates. Whereas fluoride's benefits to teeth come from topical contact, fluoride's health risk comes from ingestion. One of the risks of fluoride ingestion is dental fluorosis, which basically erodes your tooth enamel. According to a 2011-2012 national survey by the CDC, a staggering 58% of American adolescents now have dental fluorosis, with 23% of adolescents suffering advanced forms of the condition. When present on front teeth, dental fluorosis is aesthetically objectionable condition that can cause children significant social anxiety and embarrassment. The rate of dental fluorosis in U.S. children has continued to rise for the last 60 years. The prevalence of severity of dental fluorosis is significantly greater in areas with fluoridated water than in areas without. This is because children in fluoridated areas receive larger accumulation doses of fluoride than children in non-fluoridated areas. A primary concern with fluoride's impact on human health today is the effect it has on the human brain. In 2006, the National Research Council concluded that it is apparent that fluoride has the ability to interfere with the functions of the brain. Over 300 published, peer-reviewed studies have reported that fluoride interferes with the brain. This includes over 50 studies linking fluoride exposure to cognitive impairments in human populations. The majority of these studies have been published within the past 10 years. In 2014, fluoride was added to the list of chemicals known to cause developmental neurotoxicity in human beings. In a review published by Lancet Neurology, fluoride is one of only 12 chemicals that are on this list, alongside lead, mercury, and PCBs. I'd like to add that mercury is also injected into infants in vaccines. Many of the studies investigating fluoride's impact on the brain have found adverse neurotoxic effects at doses ingested by a large number of Americans living in fluoridated communities. EPA's safety standards for fluoride dosing remains focused on preventing severe dental fluorosis and/or crippling skeletal fluorosis and do not account for fluoride's effect to the brain. Yet, studies in humans and animals show that fluoride causes adverse neurotoxic effects at doses that are lower than those which produce severe dental and skeletal fluorosis. Safety standards solely designed to protect against severe dental and skeletal fluorosis will thus not protect against fluoride's neurological effects. EPA has guidelines for neurotoxicity risk assessment, which set forth the principles, concepts, and procedures that EPA has stated it will follow when evaluating data on potential neurotoxicity associated with exposure to environmental toxins. Despite the voluminous peer-reviewed scientific literature on fluoride neurotoxicity in humans, animals, and cell cultures, EPA has never applied its own guidelines to fluoride. Application of EPA's guidelines to the human, animal, and in vitro research on fluoride neurotoxicity would show that neurotoxicity is a hazard of fluoride exposure, and the risk of this hazard exists at doses that are now ingested by millions of Americans living in fluoridated communities. Neurodevelopmental disabilities, including learning disabilities and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, are now widespread in the United States. Data from the CDC shows that 1 in 6 U.S. children now suffer from a neurodevelopmental disability. And of course, Big Pharma always wants to put them on pharmaceutical drugs. In a nation besieged by neurological disorders of poorly understood etiology, both in young children and the elderly, minimizing exposures to known neurotoxic substances must be a public health priority. In summary, over 200 million Americans are exposed to fluoridated drinking water. Fluoride is also in our food. Most European countries have removed fluoride from their water and had no negative effects. Fluoride causes fluorosis of the teeth, actually harming teeth. Fluorosis rates are higher in areas with fluoridated waters than they are in areas without fluoridated water. A primary concern for fluoride is the impact it has on the human brain. Fluoride is one of 12 known chemicals to have a negative neurotoxic impact on the human brain. And the EPA doesn't follow its own standards when it comes to fluoride. On top of this, 1 in 6 children in the United States of America now suffer from what is known as ADHD. Fluoride can be one of the neurotoxins contributing to that epidemic. And of course, to solve that issue, Big Pharma and the government and the doctors always want to put our children on more mind-altering prescription drugs. As of September 2016, a total of 57 studies have investigated the relationship between fluoride and human intelligence, and over 40 studies have investigated the relationship fluoride and learning memory in animals. Of these investigations, 50 of 57 human studies have found that elevated fluoride exposure is associated with reduced IQ. while 45 animal studies have found that fluoride exposure impairs the learning and/or memory capacity of animals. The human studies, which are based on IQ examinations over 12,000 children, provide compelling evidence that fluoride exposure during the early years of life can damage a child's brain development. And I will post this link below so you could go through the studies, which are also included on the web page. This, an October 2012 study from Harvard University, Developmental Fluoride Neurotoxicity, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. Results. The standardized weighted mean difference in IQ score between exposed and reference populations was minus 0.45, 95% confidence interval, minus 0.56, minus 0.35, using a random effects model. Thus, children in high fluoride areas had significantly lower IQ scores than those who lived in low fluoride areas. Subgroup and sensitivity analysis also indicated inverse associations, although the substantial heterogeneity did not appear to decrease. Conclusion. The results support the possibility of an adverse effect of high fluoride exposure on children's neurodevelopment. Future research should include detailed individual level information on prenatal exposure, neurobehavioral performance, and covariates for adjustment. Clearly, studies exist that show that fluoride has a negative impact on the development of the human brain. But what about ADHD and hyperactivity in children? This study, published in 2015, Exposure to Fluoridated Water and Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder Prevalence Among Children and Adolescents in the United States, and Ecological Association. Results. State prevalence of artificial water fluoridation in 1992 significantly positively predicted state prevalence of ADHD in 2003, 2007, and 2011, even after controlling for socioeconomic status. A multivariate regression analysis showed that after socioeconomic status was controlled, each 1% increase in artificial fluoridation prevalence in 1992 was associated with approximately 67,000 to 131,000 additional ADHD diagnoses from 2003 to 2011. Overall, state water fluoridation prevalence, not distinguishing between fluoridation types, was also significantly positively correlated with state prevalence of ADHD for all but 1 year examined. Conclusions. Parents reported higher rates of medically diagnosed ADHD in their children in states in which a greater proportion of people received fluoridated water from public water supplies. The relationship between fluoride exposure and ADHD warrants a future study. And of course, the link to that study can be found in the references below. To the last question, is fluoride good for your teeth?
But now, even the government seems to maybe be taking a little step back, announcing plans to lower the recommended fluoride limit because it's causing a tooth condition. It's called fluorosis. So are we getting too much of a good thing? Joining us now, Dr. Gerald Curatola, a dentist and a FoxNews.com health blogger. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure
And
to
we'll
be
call
here.
you Dr. Jerry from now on through the conversation. So is this study, is it a big surprise to dentists?
Well, it's not a big surprise to dentists at all. Dentists have been seeing this condition called fluorosis, and it's affecting, this is the amazing statistic, 41% of adolescents aged 12 to 15 have some form of fluorosis defects on their teeth. And this, ironically, makes the enamel of the teeth weaker, not stronger, as fluorosis affects hardness and makes them more prone to cavities, which fluoride was really, in the beginning, there to prevent.
So let's take a look at some pictures. We have some pictures that some of our viewers may find just a little bit disturbing, but what are we looking at?
Well, this would be considered a condition. The first picture was mild fluorosis. This is more severe fluorosis.
There you have it. We've now proven that fluoride is bad for neurological development, so I hope that you, at all costs, make sure your kids don't have fluoride. We've proven that fluoride contributes to ADHD and that it's not even good for your teeth. Me personally, I use a clear filter water filter. The name is Clear Filter, and it does take out fluoride. Not all filters do, so I would look that up. Make sure whatever filter you get, it says on it that it removes fluoride. And I also use non-fluoride toothpaste. Just type that into Amazon, and you can get it for you and your family. If you think you could avoid fluoride by drinking bottled water, think again. This from the USDA National Fluoride Database in 2005. I know this is hard to see, but I will include the information attached in the references below. There is fluoride in Aquafina, Crystal Geyser, Dasani, Evian, Nea, Perrier, Poland Springs, Saratoga, and so on. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to keep making more. I know a lot of you have complained about volume problems on my videos. I'm doing my best to get that corrected. I'm on a small budget, and I haven't been able to get the big-time microphones that I need to really regulate volume. Once I'm able to get those, the volume should be a little bit better. It's part of the reason I need your help. I need your support. If you go to www.patreon.com, search Tom Anderson, as little as $1 a month will help provide the funds I need so that I could run a little bit smoother of an operation. I'm Tom Anderson, FFR News.